Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Girivardhari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vasudevaya O Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Tojaya Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun. Conversation with someone directly. When do we find God directly speaking? Well, in some places we find him speaking in a commanding voice, a voice of condemnation, or of giving an edict written in literally at home. In Vaikuntha Vedic ceremonies, who are seemingly inept in that context, who have love for Krishna, are exalted in the Srimad Bhagavatam. For instance, we find Vritrasura, who in the Rig Veda, the oldest book in the world, is considered in that context a dangerous demon. And Indra is the hero of the story of killing him. Whereas in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it comes out that the real, literally losing his son and then coming into the association of Shankarshan, perfectly chanting a mantra and coming to pure devotional service, then being cursed by Parvati and taking a birth as a demon. But inside the body of the demon was a pure devotee. And it comes out in his interactions with Indra, who used to be the hero in the Rig Veda, but in the Srimad Bhagavatam, he's not considered so well in relationship with Vritrasura, who has to encourage Indra to do his duty and try to kill him. Meanwhile, Vritrasura is not so concerned with being killed. In fact, he's inviting it because he wants to give up that body he was given by curse and go back to Krishna. And we find him pining for Krishna in a very intimate way, thinking of him in very sweet ways. And then similarly, we find in a very strict Veda culture, the father is the guru, mother and father. But in the story of Prahlad Maharaj, we find that when Prahlad's father is killed by Hiranyakashipu, he rejoices, as does everyone else. Where's the reverence for father in that? Well, we find in this pastime in the Srimad Bhagavatam of the wives of the Brahmins, they're exalted. Why? It has nothing to do with the external bodily designation. It has everything to do with their mood of loving devotion. So we come to this clarity in the Srimad Bhagavatam about what's most important. And this is Krishna's didactic way of showing us what's most important. In the pastime last night, the wives were glorified because they were pure devotees. The husbands had erred, and they were not just husbands, they were brahmanas, supposedly the heads of society. They got it all wrong, completely wrong, so wrong you couldn't get it much wronger than that. And that is to deny giving something to Krishna when he asks you for it. And it so happens that in this pastime of the wives of the Brahmins that we heard last night, the next pastime picks up where that one left off, because Krishna wasn't finished teaching this lesson. And what was the lesson that he wanted to pick up for the Govardhan Puja? Prabhupada explains how in the context of the culture, people were eager to solve their problems or to go on with their livelihoods and flourish by worshiping various personalities, devas, like Indra. He's the subject of this one, or one of the main characters. And the cowherd men, just after, and in a nearby place, Krishna concludes the pastime with the wives of the Brahmins. He notices that his father and the other cowherd men are setting up for a yajna. And now, as a little boy, he comes over and begins to ask questions. Prabhupada mentions in the context of this pastime that when a little child speaks philosophy, everyone becomes charmed and interested to hear more. So you can imagine Krishna coming up to his father as his father and the other cowherd men are busily engaged in assembling all the ingredients for the Indra Yajna, which was a long time tradition. You went back so far that when Krishna asked his father, how long have you been doing this? For generations, it's been going on. And then Krishna began to pry But he said, well, why are you doing it? Have you ever had a little child come up and ask you why? Why this, why that? We have to do this. Why? Children do that sometimes. So Krishna was interviewing his father, and he wanted to know, is this just a rote tradition, or is this something that you're doing for a purpose? And his father said, well, we're Vaishyas. We depend on rain for everything. For taking care of the cows, there has to be fodder. That fodder comes from our fields. All the grains that we produce come from the fields, and the fields are useless without rain from Indra. Krishna then began to apply some philosophical pressure on his father. He said, well, anyway, Indra doesn't care for you that much. Just because you do a yajna for him doesn't mean that he specifically likes you. And he said, here's the proof. When he makes it rains on the ocean too. Ocean doesn't need Indra's water, but that means he's not directly responding to your worship, and now he feels obligated to you because you worship, and therefore he gives rain, because it rains everywhere. And Prabhupada gives an example in describing Krishna's philosophy, which is otherwise known as karma mimamsa, which is a philosophy in which they opine, if you follow the laws of the Vedas, and there are certain mantras to chant and rituals to perform, no middleman, including God, is needed. And therefore the goal of life is simply to do your karmic duty as perfectly as possible and stay above the fray in the material world. Elevationism. Prabhupada, and by asking them questions again and again, leading them to, and this is what people tend to do here in the material world. They hedge their bets, saying, okay, there is a God, I'll worship God, but there's also Devas too, so we'll also worship him. That's why every taxi driver in Vrindavan has a Ganesh on their dashboard. Or I saw one with Shani also. So what lesson does Krishna very prominently teach in the Bhagavad Gita? Think of 9th chapter, verse 20 says, Kamais taiste hrita jnana prapadyante nyadevata tam tam niyamamastaya prakrita niyatasvaya yo yo yam yam tanum bhakta shraddha yarchitam ichati tasya tasya chalam shradham tam eva bidadham yaham shraddhaya. What is it? First word? Sadaya shradaya yuktas tasya ardhanamihate labate chatata kamam maryaiva vihitan hitan antabatu palam teshan tadbhavatyal pamedasan devan deva yajo yanti madbhakta yanti malmapi. In this paragraph, Krishna is talking about our relationship with Deva. This sounds archaic to most Western minds. That, are you kidding me? You really think there's a guy up there running things? But of course there is. We drive regularly from the mountains in Japan down to the city. And as we go, it's a very mountainous country, almost 90% mountains. We drive down, we see constructed waterways, and there are these big dams that run the hydroelectric system, or that provide hydroelectricity. And we never see anybody that's inside one of the rooms above the dam pushing any button. But there is somebody there. Just because you can't see who's behind something, and you don't assume that it's going on by itself. There's a personality behind everything. And very well reasoned how and charted out. There's schemas that describe the ways in which the demigods control the various senses that we have. It's an intricate system, and they're highly empowered beings, and we can't do without them. And it's simultaneous. When I say move my arm, there's a chain of events that takes place lightning fast through the system that Krishna set up here in the material world. And we have an interdependent relationship with the devas. For instance, we have eyes, but they're no good without the sun. And Surya, who provides the light, what good is his sunlight if there's not somebody to see it? But above all of them is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, where do we find this? And I'm going to go back to the Gita in just a second. We find that throughout the Sri Brahma Samhita, Brahma goes through many of the main demigods to explain their relative position in our lives. Let's go back to Ganesh, since he's so popular. Obstacles. So who wouldn't like to have their obstacles removed? Especially for getting stuff you want. Everybody would like that. To have somebody who charms their life and say, okay, you can unabatedly enjoy the material world, remove all obstacles. So what does Brahma say in the Brahma Samhita? Yat pada pallava yugam vinidaya kumbha dvande pranama samaye saganadi raja vignan bihan. He has a pair of tumuli that protrude from his elephant head, like this. And he keeps on his elephant head the two lotus feet of Lord Nrsingadev. Therefore, he has the power to remove obstacles. Now, an intelligent person might say, well, why don't I just go right to Lord Nrsingadev? And that's what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, kamaiso kshemam mahamyaham, meaning forget everything else. Just completely give yourself to me and my devotional service. How do you do that? Through the 9 processes: hearing, chanting, remembering, etc. And he says, if you do that, I'll personally take care of you. Vahami has a specific we have with Krishna eternally anyway. Nityo nityanam chaitanas chaitananam eko bahunam yobidhati kamam. The Upanishads say, Krishna, he's the supreme supplier for every being. He's feeding everybody. Show me one living entity here in Vrindavan who's not getting fed today. There isn't anybody. And I don't know how he's doing it, but he feeds all the ants. I have no idea what they're thinking when they walk around on a big marble floor. I watch them sometimes when I'm chanting, and I'm like, where are you going? Like, how do you even know where you are? It's just white. And then you have the birds. They fly around like they really know where they're going, and they know where their food is. And then my friend has a little property down on the marg, and years ago he showed us that he used to give a roti to one of the dom dogs every day, and there was an offering. They'd have an offering in the afternoon, and then they'd make an extra roti for the dog. And every day you could see at about 1 minute to 3 o'clock, the dog would come running down the road, and I looked on his paws to see if he had a wristwatch. He didn't. He just knew it was 1 minute to 3 o'clock, and he would run down the road and then turn the corner and come in and go, roti. So Krishna has already an intimate relationship with all living beings because he's feeding them. Nitya nityanam chaitanas chaitananam eko bahunam yovidadhati kaman. He feeds everybody. And there's not one person full, and he's feeding every living being. But he wants more than that, not just this supply and demand, because I'm hungry. He wants love. And he wants to extract the love that's dormant within the heart of every living being. And therefore he sets up this elaborate ruse that he performs to demote Indra. Indra, that's just another reason that he performs the pastime, became proud. And that's the death knell to bhakti. Pride comes in various forms, and one of them is entitlement. In fact, Jamuna Devi, one of the famous pianists, but if I have in my head that I deserve something, then it's very hard for me to appreciate anything. And this entitlement, that the consciousness of Indra. And he thought, I deserve that offering of the cowherd men. And if you've ever thought you deserve something and then you didn't get it, doesn't it cause anguish? Say yes. Yes. So it caused great anguish to Indra. So what Krishna did was he convinced his father and all the other cowherd men not just to not do the Indra Yagya, which took some work because they thought, let's find a win-win here. We'll do what you're saying, but we should keep the Indra Yagya. And Krishna, no, don't waste the resources. You already have all this paraphernalia ready for the Indra Yagya. So here's what. Let's take all that stuff that you were going to give to Indra, and we're going to worship Govardhan Hill instead. So he gave the greatest insult to Indra, who expected this worship. And he said, don't worship him. He can't help. And you take all that paraphernalia, the whole investment you made for the Indra Yagya, and just let's convert it into paraphernalia to worship the hill. And so they did that. Now Krishna has many qualities, and one of them is he speaks the language of every living being. Animals, he knows all the languages. All the humans, he knows every language. He knows everything. In any case, the way that Krishna spoke to his father and the cowherd men completely convinced them to invest everything in worshiping Govardhan Hill. And what did that include? He said, everyone should dress up. Put on your best clothes. And we'll get all the cows, and we'll get our bullock carts, and then we'll circumambulate Govardhan Hill, and then we'll make an offering to Govardhan. And this took place just a little down the road from where we had breakfast the other day in a place called Anior. And they brought unlimited quantities of roti and puris. What else? Rasgulla. Kachoris. Rice, like tons of rice. Tons and tons they offered to. This is what's now called anakut, to offer everything in the whole village. Madhavendra Puri did it too. They just brought everyone brought everything, piled it up, said, here, take, this is for you. And in the pastime, Krishna became the hill. He assumed a gigantic form with huge teeth and a big, huge mouth, and he was consuming all of the boga that people were bringing. They were bringing it by the ox cart full and offering it, and he would just take it like it was nothing. He would use big bamboo sticks like as a toothpick. That's how big his form was there on Govardhan Hill. And then his mood was, that's all you have? And he was saying, Anior, Anior, give me more, give me more. And the people were afraid because Krishna had told them, if you don't perform this sacrifice and feed Govardhan Hill, they're simple farmers. They drive. Krishna loves it here. The cows are simple. You watch them, they're not a complicated animal in abundance. And the people, very simple. So they were cowering when Govardhan Hill became gigantic. And Krishna bowed down to the hill and said, see, here's what we have to do, bow down to the hill. And according to the Gopal Champu, Balaram, and he was satisfied. So that's a lesson too. If you don't have anything else, make sure you give the Lord Tulsi. In fact, there's a song about Vrinda that says, unless you offer Krishna food with Tulsi, he won't take it. So they did everything Krishna said. It was all joyous, singing. Everyone was dressed up. They fed the hill. And then he said, now feed everybody. So they fed everybody, including the dogs. Everyone got to eat. There was so much prasadam after offering it to Govardhan Hill that everyone was inundated with piles of prasadam. And they fed those who were homeless and those who were, all the animals ate, all the Brahmins ate sumptuously first. And everyone was happy, except for Indra. He wasn't happy at all. And Indra thought, this impotent boy, how could these people be so stupid? But he said, no, you come now and we'll teach the nature works. Gave us eyes that blink. And that's the times when we don't see Krishna. How much more could you have blown it in creating a body? 24/7. And this is where this phrase 24/7 came from this pastime. Because when Krishna lifted the hill, he invited everyone to come. And now look at the pictures of Krishna. He's in the center and everybody's there 24/7. They all get to see him because he's there on display, his beautiful form, and he's interacting with everyone. The cowherd boys, they're holding sticks. They go, Krishna, you know, you're going to get tired. We're going to help you out here. They put their sticks, their little cowherding sticks up the hill, hold the hill. And his mother is thinking, Krishna, you got to eat. You got to. And meanwhile, as is described in the Nectar of Devotion, Krishna's sort of glancing at the gopis who are there. And his hand starts to shake. And that's when they all put their sticks up. No, oh no, he's going to drop it. So just an indication of the interactions he had there. It's the one place in Vraj, and it's the one Leela where everybody's there at the same time, interacting with Krishna unabatedly for the whole time that he lifted the hill. So then, when he puts the hill down finally, we hear the collateral damage, 0. And that's the report that Indra got back. He tried his best to drown everybody, to pound Vrindavan with thunder, with lightning bolts. And when his servants came back, he said, okay, how are we doing? They said, nothing. No one's been touched even by one drop of rain. And Indra came to his senses and he realized, uh-oh. Have you ever had that happen? You got really angry and you said something, you did something, you smashed something, and the next thing you know, it's like, what did I do? Indra had that moment, that awkward moment. After Krishna put the hill down, he came out, he was a great hero. Everyone in the village greeted him. The cowherd men were massaging his hand because they thought, he must be tired, let's massage his hand, and he's our champ. And now Indra was preparing himself for his day of reckoning. So he recruited Surabhi cow, to come with him to stand in front, because he likes cows. You stand up there, I'll stand back here. But one of the sweetest, and I promised a few sweet things, aspects of the pastime, you'll find when Indra comes, Krishna arranges to meet him in a solitary place because he doesn't want to embarrass him. And the words that Krishna speaks to Indra after that are not chastisement. He says, I'm so sorry if I disturbed your mind, he said to Indra. He said a similar thing to Kaliya as well. Sorry for any inconvenience. This is Krishna's soft nature. Indra just tried to kill everybody. He lost his temper. And Krishna says, sorry for any inconvenience. There in that place, there's a place, Surabhi Kund, and it's where Indra begged for forgiveness. And Krishna gave it, and we often go there when we're doing our parikram of Govardhan Hill, and you can go there and remember how important it is to ask for forgiveness. Anything that I've done, said, please forgive all that and let me start anew. And there, as I mentioned at Govinda Kund, Krishna was anointed as the supreme Indra, because Indra is considered the god of gods. He is there in the Rig Veda also. But there at Govinda Kund, Surabhi and everyone declared to Krishna, no, you're Govinda. You're the supreme god of all gods, above Indra, above all the demigods. And the final lesson Krishna gives in the Bhagavad Gita and elsewhere, the end of the 8th chapter of the Gita, when Krishna's telling us that all we need to do is become his devotee. No special arrangements, even for leaving your body, are necessary except for thinking of me and becoming my devotee. And then he says, Vedeshu yagdeshu tapasu chaiva daneshu yat punya palam pratishnam atyeti tat sarva midam vadit va yogi param stanam upaiti chadyam, which means that everything that you get from performing Vedic sacrifices, Vedeshu, Yagneshu, any yagya you think you need to perform, Daneshu, any kind of charity you think you need to give in the right place. All these things, Krishna said, are subsumed in my worship. If someone becomes an unalloyed devotee of Mukunda, Shani, Natsu, who else you got?
Sai Baba.
Venus, Sai Baba. Just walk. And I never get tired of watching. From that vantage point we have at Govardhan Hill, you can either get on the roof or I can stand in front of the gate and watch people walk by, and it never gets old. It's like watching TV through there, and all it is people walking, and you think, there's a simple faith that Krishna is everything, and that's Vrindavan. Krishna is my life and soul. I'll serve him by walking around. I'll serve him by singing his names, and that's all that's necessary. And if we have that, then everything is complete. And that's the Krishna consciousness movement, to bring that to the world. Om Tat Sat. I think I'm finished because I could tell the bag is moving. So thank you very much, everybody. We'll discuss later if you have reflections, questions, so we can keep on schedule right now. I'll hand it over to Divyanam Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
I think I couldn't think of any better way than celebrating Govardhan like this. I almost started to smell the mitti of the Govardhan, the rain and everything, because you're so much there when you're hearing the Hari Katha. Sometimes you could miss it while you're there actually, but we got the nectar while we are here in Vrindavan. So thank you, Maharaj, for taking us to Govardhan and taking us into this beautiful pastime. So yeah, I think it'll be good for me. So yeah, we can discuss this Leela more and you can ask your reflections and questions there. We are on a very tight schedule, so we request devotees to please, the breakfast prasadam will be served upstairs in the Viti restaurant. So please make your way up straight after this. Purata Sundar Prabhu is here. Prabhu will make a quick announcement. So Purata